right. Well, happy Monday. This is the Green Burial Chronicles of Morgan Oaks, and I'm here with Jenni Franklin. And so I've been really excited about this podcast, but I've also mentally prepared for this one. So I can't make any promises that I won't be emotional in this one, but Jenni is here. So Jenni and her husband, Alex, who's not here, but wanted to be here, they have a very special human laid to rest at Morgan Oaks. So they have Slater, who was their son. He was 3, and he had a drowning accident just over a year ago, right?
Oh, we're not quite to a year
Not
yet.
to a year.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Morgan Oaks was lucky enough to be able to serve you. I will never forget the phone call I got that day.
Yep.
And I feel like ever since I met you and Alex, like it's been great to get to know you. Unfortunate circumstances, but I feel like you guys have been a blessing to us probably as much as Morgan Oaks has been a blessing to you. So Jenni is the mom of 4 boys. Oh my goodness. And a husband.
Yes.
So almost like 4.5, maybe 5,
Pretty
right?
much,
It gets
pretty
crazy. And so, Jenni, tell us a little bit, just like about you. How long have you lived in Lincoln? Who are you? Whatever.
Yeah. So, born and raised in Placer County.
Okay.
Actually was born at the same hospital that Slater was at. So, and we lived in Lincoln for 11 years. And then we just recently had moved up to Auburn to our property on 5 acres. So, we've been there now almost 3 years.
Wow. Okay. And boys?
All boys.
All boys. What are their ages?
So my oldest, Jack, is 12 and a half. And oh my gosh, going on 30. And then Theo is going to be 11 in a week. And then Quinn is 9.
Got it. All right. So Slater was the baby. Okay. Okay. So let's dive into this. So obviously you're in Auburn. Well, first let me tell you, like, what's your most favorite memory of Slater?
Oh my gosh, there are too many to count. But with Facebook memories, there's always something that's brought to the forefront. And just he's just been wild. He was feral. We called him our feral child. Just by kid number 4, you're like, yeah, okay, eat the dirt. It's okay.
Yeah.
And he just was driving the tractor or what is it, a little Jeep Power Wheel thing with his brother 2 years ago today. So that one just popped up recently. But then playing with the dogs and, running around playing with the hose and just being a boy and experiencing the world.
I love that. Okay, cool. So this all happens. And the thing about this one is we didn't prepare for this.
Nope. Yeah.
And you weren't prepared for like you and Alex. Like It wasn't like, oh, we have a place or
Right.
So it was this scramble. Like I said, I'll never forget the call. I had just left yoga.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Alex, I think, like, I can come, but I am not like I would normally be.
Right.
And so how did you find Morgan Oaks?
So when we lived in Lincoln, we were frequent flyers to Camp Far Westlake. So we were driving, down Wise and Gladding a lot during the summer. We had boats, and so we would go out all the time. And I remember seeing, just kind of the fencing go up and then the sign and everything. And, we really didn't have conversations about it, but Alex was like, oh yeah, that's that natural burial place. Well, when I thought natural burial, I was thinking it's like you're the tree pod, you've seen those where you're the pod in the capsule, which is still great, which is still fantastic, but I didn't know what it was. And, my husband being the busybody that he is, I was just trying to, survive that day in the first 24 hours, but his brain doesn't stop and his body doesn't stop. And he's like, I want to go, I want to figure this out. And I was just going along for the ride. And I think Theo came that day too. Theo came and walked the property that day.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's how we knew about it, just from being in the area and driving past and seeing the signs.
Okay, so then it happens. Were you immediately like, Morgan Oaks, this is where we know?
No, like I said, I was just like, what just happened?
Yeah.
I'm on a whole nother planet now. Like, what do I do? It was really Alex that knew, like, that was his, like, we got to go here. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So.
And I remember taking you guys out and you picked Bridge of Peace.
We did.
And do you remember why you told me that day, why you picked that spot?
Our property is, Alex knows the dimensions better than me, but it is a straight shot. So if you were to sit with Slater, you could look up and see where our property is.
And there was something about that. I remember, for everybody listening, Jenni and Alex went and stood, and Alex said you could see our property, like you're looking right at it.
Yeah, the way that the wind will blow over. And I'm a Disney kid and a movie kid, so I think of movie Pocahontas, right? When the winds, kind of go over. That's kind of what. Okay, the same winds that are passing by our property are going to pass over here, and don't even start. But yeah, it was. That's where he was supposed to be.
I love that. And so, one of the things that I love is we took care of Slater for you. So at Morgan Oaks, for listeners, one of our jobs is any child burial we will do completely, like everything's handled.
Yeah.
And that's from our owners and all the staff, basically, because no one plans for that.
Yeah.
And that's hard. The thing about you guys was you didn't just want Slater there.
Yeah.
So walk me through what that was like for you guys.
That part for me was a no-brainer. That was like, well, if he's here, then I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
Like there is no doubt in my mind. I don't care when, how, what, like this is where I'm going to be. We purchased both of our plots, me and Alex. And the tree. Forget about the tree. So we have, Slater, me, and Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have other family now that you guys have continued to grow out there. Yeah. And I love that. So at Morgan Oaks, that was our whole vision, Jenni, was that you as a family, there would be heritage. So you would come and everybody would be there together. Like I can't imagine laying my son or daughter or child to rest and being like, oh, and by the way, one day I'm going to be in New York.
Right.
So I love that you guys, they said yes, and they got their beautiful tree.
I know, yeah.
And so now there's a tree there, and then there's room for everybody to be there with you, and your family has planned for that.
Yeah.
And so I love that, because probably not something you were thinking about needing to do.
Yes.
But now it's handled.
But now it's settled, yeah. Still have to get the will and trust and all of that handled, but that piece of the puzzle is done.
You know where you're going.
I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
And the kids know where I'm going. The boys know where I'm going. We didn't make that decision for the boys because they may decide to be with their families one day. It might be different. Or they may decide, hey, family, this is where we're going to be because this is where my family is, right? So, but we will let them choose that on.
Sure. No, I love that. Okay. So then what do you love most about Morgan Oaks now that it's become part of your family story? So like now you've been there a while.
Yeah.
What do you love most about it?
We, Alex and I both love going out and watching the sunset with him. That's a big deal. In fact, I was watching the sunset last night after that little bit of weird storm that we had. Did you have
that was
rain?
weird. It was
so weird.
Sprinkling,
but it made the sky so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was almost like, man, if I had time, if I could just like paraglide straight in there, it would have been a cool sunset from Morgan Oaks, and just the natural beauty of it. And even Earth Day. I brought the boys out and we walked the trails, and just being able to have that place to go and not worry, okay, do I need reservations at Hidden Falls? No, I don't need a reservation at Morgan Oaks. I can just go, right? It's that connection and grounding.
Okay, and then also you guys did the birthday party, which was really special.
Yeah,
so talk to me about that.
Because, and by the way, his birthday fell on Grieving Mother's Day. So I did not know this before this, but the first Sunday of every month is Grieving Mother's Day. And his birthday actually fell on that, his actual birthday, May 4th. So
May 4th.
May the 4th be with you. Yes, he is my Star Wars baby. In fact, his middle name is Mace. I know, sidetrack.
Tell us.
Yeah, his middle name is Mace because he was born on May 4th. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So we decided to name him after Mace Windu. And so that's where the purple comes in, because his lightsaber was purple. So but we had his birthday and invited all of our friends and family to celebrate with us and just have cupcakes and walk the trails and bike and just be out there with us and with him.
I love that. So for the listeners, I was there that day. And so what Jenni's referring to is they had Slater's birthday party at Morgan Oaks.
At Morgan Oaks, yes.
And so for some of you, if you've not been to Morgan Oaks, I mean, you could imagine that these people are like, you're having a birthday party at a cemetery?
Right.
Okay, you guys, it is way different. And what we've created is a park.
Right, exactly.
And so a park-like setting that allows families, and we'll get into this, to grieve, to heal. But what I love about us at Morgan Oaks, and for families like you, I mean, everybody out there really, is we have a setting where you can just come out and do that.
can do that.
That's not typical,
Yeah.
but it's something you
Yeah.
wanted to do.
It is no different than going to, like you said, a park and setting up tables and chairs and your balloons and doing all that and having a barbecue and sandwiches and all of that. And that's what we did. That's what we did. We just had some light bites and cupcakes, and everyone got to hang out and, have a beer and celebrate. Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So then for families that are facing a similar heartbreak, I think kids are different than obviously, like my dad was 81, like he's lived a full life. What would you want them to know about Morgan Oaks as a place of peace or remembrance or anything special to you?
Yeah. I mean, especially it just fit him. He had his cowboy boots. He helped Alex, do the road at our house. I mean, he was a country kid. So the setting for him is very much like our property. So it just fit who his soul was.
Yeah.
And so I think if that matches, that person's spirit, then it makes sense.
And that's what we hear a lot is like, oh, my mom or my dad or my son loved nature.
Yeah.
And like, what a better place to be than literally giving back to nature and with nature.
Yeah.
And so for anybody that hasn't been there, it's super peaceful. Like I love having my dad. So oh my gosh, he passed away in June. And so, similar, like it's Father's Day, my dad's birthday, and his death day. So I celebrate all three of those. And I love sitting up. People think I'm crazy, but I go sit up with dad on the day of his death typically and have dinner with him. His favorite was El Pollo Loco.
Nice.
So I love that I can just sit there and it's so quiet and so healing. And so I love that. Okay. So when people hear, one of the things you wanted to hit on was circle of life and like how that has even navigated that. What does that phrase mean to you, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm going to reference Disney again. But Lion King came out when I was like 10 years old. So that was a huge, you start thinking about things like what happens to us? Where do we go? Our body becomes the grass and the antelope eat the grass. Like that's just the full circle of life. And I think, even though Slater's circle was small, right, it was so impactful and so meaningful. And so for his death to continue to mean something is just as important.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, they built something somewhere for him in remembrance or like a donation?
We are building his tree house.
Yes. Tell me about that.
So, of course, life has, and winter.
Right.
You can't pour slabs in the winter, but we are building basically a tree house in his memory on our property. And it's basically two structures that are connected by a bridge. And, they're in the trees. They're not connected to the trees, but they have full-on foundations. And my work family has been fantastic. I work for a builder. So when we asked for some help with the plans, just to make sure we're building it structurally sound, right? They jumped in and were able to get our architects to design and give us the plans for his tree house, which will be framed one day, I'm sure. But so this summer we should be able to get to framing. We're almost done with all of the posts and piers that should be in the ground. Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. I remember hearing all about that originally. So, okay. How has your understanding or maybe your view of life and death changed since Slater's happened? And maybe for your family. I mean, I know I've met your mom and dad, and so that was a big thing. And so talk to me about that.
Well, I mean, I fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you view it, experienced death and a very sudden death when I was 20. My grandmother passed away unexpectedly as well. So it is not my first go around. I lost my grandfather when I was 9, and I was there for that. I was there when he passed away. So there's been a lot of experiences in my life with death. So I've but again, they were older, right? So the hard part about this one was, number one, he was my child. He wasn't somebody that was above me in the ranks, right? And you never expect the unnatural orderness of this. So that's been hard to wrestle. But at the end of the day, it's not something we're never going to escape it, right? It's coming to us all at some point. And just realizing that we just never know when. And to... it's funny, I was on my run this morning and I have the treadmill all set up. I'm training for a half marathon, by the way. Okay. And I get to look out over the place where he passed away. How many people can say that? Like, I get to be on the place where my son passed.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge blessing. Not everyone can be there. Not everyone can be in the hospital where their parent passed away, right? And be connected to that place on the planet.
I would have to say, watching that every day, a lot of people would turn away from that. So talk to me about, like, for you, that's healing and, like, because I think that would be so hard.
It was very hard. So for the first week or so, I couldn't go home. I was with my mom.
I remember that.
Right. So coming back to that place, the energy is still so raw, right? But the more that you are there and sit with it, just like you have to sit with grief, right? You have to sit with it and be in the uncomfortableness of it. Then you can really start to see the beauty of it. It's different. It's a different beauty now.
I want to talk about this because you bring up such a great point. And you are an extremely strong human. So this is where I get emotional because the grief, the pain. I mean, my dad was 81, but Jenni, who was my best friend. And, people hear me talk about it all the time because it was literally diagnosed stage 4 lung cancer in 7 days dead.
Yeah.
Like dead, like nothing. I mean, I couldn't even blink and it was like, wait, what? I mean, I still close my eyes sometimes and hear the beeping of the hospital. And the grief, it doesn't get easier, it gets different. So talk to me about, like, I don't even know that I would want to get out of bed. Yeah. So, like, how are you healing? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. Well, it was rough and dark the first 4 months. Yeah. But at the end of the day, and I'm in a lot of grief groups.
Good.
I don't have a choice. I have 3 other children. They don't need to lose their parent too. So and when they see us, they're seeing how do I deal with this thing. So by no means perfect. Also, that first 3 months was a lot of numbing. So, but you don't have a choice, and we're not given a choice. You have no other choice but to move forward. And so that's what we've been trying to do. I mean, there are days where it is like, I don't want to do this anymore, right? And I think we jumped on therapy right away. Good. All of us. So okay. Alex and I got into couples therapy. We are continuing couples therapy, individual therapy, and all the boys in therapy. Good. So no matter what you do, that is my number one advice, because you can't be everything for everyone in that moment.
No, you can barely be enough for you.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, there were moments where it's just like you're in your own despair. You have to find your way out yourself. No one else is going to do that for you. But they were definitely, the reasons a lot of time where it's like, okay, I got to take them to school. They can't miss school, right? They have to keep doing normal things. They need some sense of normalcy. Yes. So I didn't have a choice but to keep going. Yeah, I remember, the people that knew about what was going on, within our company were like, how are they doing it? And because I'm always like, Jenni and Alex, not that you looked great, but you were just flowing, right? And I'm sure a lot of it was you were numb to what had happened. Yeah. But I also knew, and I told the people, she has other kids. Yeah. Like, good for her for getting up and at least getting them to where they needed to go. And then you could come home and do what you needed to do. Yeah. Yeah, I've had my moments, and, I even had my therapist. I had to skip therapy one day. I'm like, it's all coming out. And if I get ready to go to therapy, I'm going to have to shut it down. Yeah. And I need to let it out. Like, you have to allow yourself to go there too. That's right? Good. And that is something like we get so used to, okay, put on the mask, right? Let's get ready to go. We have stuff to do. And sometimes it's okay to just keep the mask off and let it come out. And that's something that I've really been working on, because I have been keeping it up for everybody. And so then it was starting to kind of spill out the sides. And I'm like, okay, we got to keep a lid on it, but then it will overflow. It will. Right? It will become uncontrollable. Yeah. So you have to give it space and give it time. And sometimes it was hard. I'd have to put on music just to get myself to cry. Like, it's okay. You have to let this out. Like, right? You have to. It's so interesting because, number one, Jenni is a boss at work, you guys. She's an amazing realtor. And so, much like myself, I'm sure we are trained as bosses to, like, okay, I got to go to work, shove it in. Yeah. Or, I was always an athlete. And so it was like, you don't get time to cry. Like, no one cries. You don't do that. Yeah. And so I didn't cry a lot. I was almost, I got sad, but my ex-husband would always say it's about, like, commercials about a dog, not about, like, stuff you should be sad about, like, you don't know that dog. Yeah. And so one of the things my therapist said was,
I need you to create a playlist that really digs into your heart and makes you cry.
Yep.
And I was like, oh God, that's so uncomfortable. And he's like, I want you to turn off all the lights. So for people listening that are shovers or like don't deal with grief or hard things, one of the hardest things was I bought really cool headphones. He said, make it like so you feel good about it. And then I want you to turn dark and I want you to just max out the music. And Jenni, I sobbed.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and feel like a mess.
Yeah.
And you know what? I felt so good.
So much better, so much lighter.
So much lighter. So for people listening that are struggling with grief, like it's hard to cry, especially when you maybe haven't done that for your life.
And I think it's a lot of the accepting that it's happened, right? Because for me, there was a lot of times where I was like, and this is the denial part.
Yeah.
Grief comes in stages or whatever.
And it's like, oh, he's just at grandma's.
Yeah.
Right. And even the first few days, it was like, oh, he's on his iPad. Like he's just in the other room. He's watching Bluey. You know, your brain is protecting you.
Yes.
But then at a certain point, you have to face that reality, and making yourself go there is part of facing the reality of it. Yeah, the truth of it.
And it's also, okay, so what can we learn from this, or how can we grow and move forward and remember Slater, and what is it that, we can keep in his memory? Because if you're always grieving him, it's always going to be sad.
Right.
And then his brothers don't want to think about it. So let's talk about your other 3 boys.
Yeah.
What are you doing to keep them going? Because I'm sure you have different age groups where they may understand it or may not.
Sure. So, it's funny. They all write in their journals at school, right? So they have all their writing stuff they have to do. And so we were like, okay, well, the only thing I want you to keep from all your schoolwork is your journals, right? Because Jack, who was he's the oldest, but he was closest to Slater. They were just like the best of buds. And when he came home from school that summer, he's like throwing away all his math homework, throwing away all of his journals. And then this happened and he was so devastated. So those little things that you think aren't meaningful sometimes, and it's not like keep every piece of paper, but when it comes to mementos that are snapshots of memories, take the pictures, do all those things. We had the boys write letters, right, that were laid to rest with Slater. They were in there. And we had them do the same thing on his birthday, like if they wanted to.
Right.
Jack didn't really want to. If you want to write him a letter for his birthday, and they kind of made their cards or made drawings or whatever it looked like. And they're all digital, right? They're on their games. So for example, Theo has his little, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the game, but it's a little family. So it has all of our little avatars, kind of like a kid's version of Sims.
Yeah.
But he has Slater in there still. Like Slater's still there. So he honors him and keeps him alive in that way. And they do talk about him, they say, oh, it reminds me of him. And, they don't always talk to me as much as I would like them to. I think they don't want to make me upset.
Sure.
And we've talked about that, but I know they talk to my mom and they talk to teachers. And so I've heard, that they still talk about him and say his name, which is, for being less than a year out from this, it's all I can ask for.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything planned to memorialize him at that year, or?
Yeah, so we will be going, we're going to San Diego and then we're going to Catalina Island. So we will actually be in Catalina on the 1-year mark. And I've gotten in touch with a lot of people on social media. Like there's hikes up there that are beautiful. So again, we just plan on being connected with nature and just being out in an area where he would like. Yeah, and we don't have any set expectations for that day other than that. So we're not going parasailing or anything crazy because you just don't know how you're going to wake up, well, every day, but that day in particular. So I'm just trying to make it as open-ended, like whatever we want to do.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Okay, so as we start to wrap up and close up, what message do you want to share with parents who are maybe grieving a child or have gone through something like this?
Give yourself grace. Just don't try not to have a lot of expectations for yourself. Just you are not going to be prepared. It just is not anything that you can, even if I have a fellow mom that lost her son to cancer too, and it was a 2-year battle, and you still aren't prepared for that actual time, right? When they transition, and it's just give yourself as much grace as you can.
Yeah. I think too, grieving in general, I would tell people get in a community. So like you said, Jenni said, if you didn't catch it, that she's in a ton of grief groups. And so you have a lot of support. You also have a lot of family support from what I've seen. And so that's been great, is you haven't isolated because you can't. So I remember for me, it was really hard because it was just me. It was easy to isolate. So making myself go to church or go to these groups was painful.
Yeah. And there are, and on that note, pick the right group.
Yes.
There are some groups where they are just that, I can't get out of bed, right? I'm really struggling. And I know I'm not the right person for them. Like I can't help bring them out of that, but I needed to see parents that were thriving. So in fact, it was recommended by a coworker whose sister had lost a son. And there was a particular group that really believed heavily in spirits and signs and that sort of thing. And it's called Helping Parents Heal.
Helping Parents Heal. Okay.
And they all are about lifting each other up and acknowledge, and just in a more positive, like we're keeping going, we're meeting, we're having these, groups, we'll do Zoom, that sort of thing, but it's not a commiseration. We're not trauma bonding, right? Which we've all trauma bonded enough. We don't need to go there anymore, but it's just, how do we take a step forward every day?
Yeah. Get out of this.
Get out of this.
Yeah. What if someone listening has a loved one who's lost a child? What's something kind or help? Like, I think even for me in the industry, when you guys came to me, I was like, oh gosh, like, what do I say or what do I do? Now that you've kind of come this far, what is helpful for those people?
So I would say, we talk about this a lot in the very beginning, the worst thing you can do is ask how we're doing.
Oh my gosh, I know.
And it's such a common, you go to the grocery store, oh, how are you doing? And I remember we went to Rayleigh's one time and we had the kids with us. It was the first time like we were all out in a daze, and the cashier is all bubbly and we're just like, we're terrible. Thanks for asking. They don't know,
they don't,
right? But I think if you know that situation, just ask, what can I do for you today? What did you do today? Not how are you doing? Because we already know the answer.
Gosh, it's so funny. I mean, I laugh because I remember everybody saying, how are you? And they'd be like, I already know how you are. I don't know what else to say.
Right. You just don't know what to say.
And I think even at the cemetery, I'll ask people like, how are you? And I think for me, genuinely being out there and knowing you and the families, I want to know like, hey, Jenni, how are you?
Yeah.
Or is there anything that we can do to support you? That's who we are. So moral of that story is don't ask how they are. Say, what did you do today?
Or, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
Right. That's a big one. Or just, hey, I'm in the area. Are you up for a visit?
Yeah.
And just sit, because it's very uncomfortable. Who wants to sit with somebody who's sad? Right. That's like, but being there, we have a lot of friends that continue to show up, which at Slater's birthday was huge.
Yeah.
Right? You continue to be there to support us. And that's huge because a lot of people just drop off.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I checked on them. Right. They're fine. Right. Oh, she's doing so well. She doesn't
That's
need me
what
to
I
check
think.
in. Right.
Yeah.
And then hey, I know Slater's birthday's coming up. How are you? What can I do for you? Do you want to go have coffee? Like,
yeah. So I think, if you're
not how are you, but
no, yeah. I was going to say, don't say how are. If you're listening and you've lost someone or one, give people grace because they don't know what to do. But number two, if you're listening and you feel like, oh, they're good, they're probably not. And if they are, still check on them. Anything, say anything. Okay, so what do you want people to know about Morgan Oaks, about all of the things that, happened throughout this? Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with about Morgan Oaks?
Well, one thing that I'm excited about is seeing all the seasons, and we're just about there now, right? We've seen it through summer, fall, spring, and it's just no matter what time of day or whatever you go out there, it's always beautiful. It's always beautiful, and it does have a serenity to it. So I think if you say the term laying your loved ones to rest, right? This is a place of rest. This is a place of peace and tranquility, and where you can really honor them. That's what I feel like, right? It's a place of honor.
Yeah.
And you guys do a great job of fulfilling that in how you manage the property and how you manage, us as clients. It was, we couldn't have asked for a better experience. And I think even my cousin, who lost a newborn, had to go through this terrible thing. And she's like, I cannot believe the experience you have had. Because she was a little like, hey, I can't believe you're making this decision so soon. We should talk about this. Don't get taken advantage of, all those things. And She was so impressed at how well we were taken care of. Yeah.
That's our job.
Yeah.
And I really feel like the minute you guys walked through those doors, like you were a family that I could love on. I remember you sharing the Jelly Roll song, right? That
yeah.
was your guys' song. And I went to the concert and I thought, this is so weird. I barely know these people, but I'm sending them a video because it was your song. And it gave me chills because I thought of Slater and you guys immediately, you know? You also, little fun fact, are the reason we have a TikTok account at Morgan Oaks because Jenni was like our first TikToker. You took a video out there. And I think we were like, oh, is that like okay? Should we start that? And, you know, for the listeners out there, we're different. I mean, you could definitely see that. And we want this to become something where it's okay to talk about it. We're here for healing. We bring people on like you because we want people to, horrible situation. How do we heal, teach others? How do we continue the story and the legacy? And so we have a TikTok now and we try to make light of hard situations.
Yes, exactly.
Because we're all going to die. And I want people to know that let's talk about it. Let's grieve together. So thank you for doing that.
Well, and TikTok was kind of my safe place, right? To let all that out. Because again, mask is on. Facebook is all happy stuff. It's like all of our social medias are different, you know, versions of ourselves. And I think for TikTok, that was, hey, I'm figuring it out. So what better place to have this be my safe place of where I can just put out my story.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your story's going to touch someone. It's going to heal someone. It's going to help someone. And so we do. That's why we share. And I love that. So for everybody listening, you can, like I said, find us on TikTok at Morgan Oaks Eternal. Facebook, we have a YouTube. We have an Instagram. We have a Pinterest. We just want to get out there. You can sign up and read our newsletters, stories about all of these things. But we just hope that today we were able to bless someone. Jenni, I'm so grateful that I was able to be there for you guys and continue to be there. And I'm glad you trusted us. And it's just great to watch you guys heal and be a part of that journey with you. So thank you. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, of course.
For everyone listening, thank you for listening. As I always say, walk gently, remember deeply, and celebrate the legacy of life. Thank you.
Thank you.